Hi ladies, we just finished our first book with the Wapesec Book Club, Crucial Conversations, written by Patterson, Grenny, McMillan, and Switzler. It opened with Start with the Heart. What does that mean to you?
Oh man, Start with the Heart was kind of one of my big topics that really got me into the book. Start with the Heart sort of just described, like, make sure when you get into these crucial conversations that you start with what's really important, right? Some of us have a way of, and by some of us, and maybe I mean me, I maybe kick off a conversation like I'm beating around the bush. But instead of doing that, like really what's the root of the problem or the gut of the problem, and start there. Don't sort of wind your way around and maybe sort of get to what you are looking for. Just really be honest and truthful and start right where it matters with what it is that matters, to who it matters, right? So
I agree with that. Can't really have a conversation if you don't care about it in the first place, because then there's no point in having the conversation.
Yeah.
Because if you don't care, it's going to just keep being like one person caring a whole lot about the conversation and putting in all this input, and the other person just kind of sitting back and saying, okay, sure, yeah, whatever you want, all right. And then the conversation's over and nothing got accomplished.
So that leads into mutual respect and mutual purpose, right?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, if you have your heart into it and your emotions, you have to have respect for that person and to be respectful of their emotions as well, because they might be starting with the heart as well in the conversation. And also mutual purpose. You guys want to have a compromise. You need to get to the same end goal. I feel like if you don't have the same end goal, or at least a similar end goal, or can see the other person's end goal and come up with more of a mutual one, then you kind of have no conversation if you don't do that. But if you do that, you can come up with a better conversation and a better way around it to make you both happy, not just one person.
So for me, mutual purpose, mutual respect, right? As I've read through this book, I've realized that the people who I get into the crucial conversations with are the people who I truly respect, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily mean I always have a mutual purpose. So what I found is I'm realizing the important conversations are with those people who I truly respect. And if I truly respect them, I do want a mutual purpose. So it's really good sort of maybe like a breather before I get into those conversations. So it was a great tool for me just to kind of think through that.
Yeah, great tips to put in your back pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
The book talks about learn to look. What are you looking for?
Oh gosh.
Well, what I learned how to look for from this book was nonverbal cues, not just what the person's saying. So a great example was when they were talking about how like a person's like posture is. So if they're like bringing themselves like towards you or maybe away from you and kind of like cowering and like closing their arms in, or if they have open arms, just how their body is, the body language, whether they're fidgeting or if they're just like sitting with a closed fist. It tells you something more than what their words are going to tell you. It's going to tell you how they feel in the conversation. If they feel powerful, they're going to come towards you. If they feel like they're lesser in the conversation, they're going to shy away and they're going to close themselves off. But if they have their arms open and they're up front, they're either open to the conversation or they feel like they've got the power to shut you down, and they're going to do so. Yeah. And same with like the closed fist, like they're like ready for a fight. It's just, it tells a lot more than what their words necessarily are saying.
Yeah. I learned to look for me was kind of a neat concept, because you can be in conversation and maybe it's kind of an easy going, flowing conversation, and when it becomes crucial, the one person who maybe is leading that or starting that conversation isn't realizing that their passion or their intensity is starting to scare others in the room. So if I'm that person with that passion and I'm sort of just on a roll and I just keep going, but the other people are sort of cowering down, if I don't learn to look at what's going on, it doesn't matter how passionate I am. If I need a team behind me and I'm too passionate, I can lose that. So learning to look was kind of a really key concept for me, for sure.
I like those points a lot from the other side.
So all that being said, what 3 questions are important to ask yourself when you find that you're in a crucial conversation?
This was one of my favorite parts. It kind of got me thinking, just not only with work conversations, but personal as well. So it was basically, 3 questions are what you want for yourself, what you want for the other person, and then what do you want out of the relationship. So the way I took it was that you kind of need to put those in order. Is what's important to you more important than the other person, or what you guys want together the most important thing? And you kind of need to put that in perspective depending on the person, I guess. So, like, in a work relationship, I feel like if somebody's higher up than you, maybe it's what they want, and then you guys can come on a compromise. Or if it's in a personal relationship, like, do you feel like you guys can come to that compromise, or are you just stubborn and stuck on what you want, or maybe on what they want? Either way is bad. If you're always pleasing another person, you're never going to be happy. And if you're always pleasing yourself, then you're never going to be able to make somebody else happy. So I kind of got that. I think that was, like, the biggest takeaway that I got from this book. I really liked the 3 questions a whole lot.
3 questions is great. Again, kind of like how I mentioned before, it's just a really good tool that I think for me, ever since reading this book, has sort of kept in my mind as I'm going through these things. It's so easy for me to just overpower a conversation with passion or facts or my own point. But if I learn to ask those 3 questions as I'm going through these conversations, what do I want? What do they want? What do I want out of this? It just makes it a much more well-rounded conversation.
Knowing all this, the fool's choice is what some people choose. Can you describe what the fool choice means to you?
Yeah. So I've made the fool's choice most of my life, right? I'm now in my 30s, and just learning that the fool's choice in the book, it's described as avoiding the conversation, right? Choosing not to have the conversation. So that's the actual choice. And in my life, I've done it so many times. I used to think that every critical conversation was a conflict, and I don't like conflict, so I would avoid it at all costs. There in making the fool's choice. And what I'm finding is that crucial conversations don't necessarily have to be conflict at all. It's just an important conversation that needs to be had. So I would make the fool's choice in the past and really suffer because the relationship suffers, right? The work relationship suffers, the personal relationship suffers because I avoid really important conversations that need to be had to address whatever issues are lying on the table.
The book talks about creating a story. In your lives, have you ever experienced this?
Yeah. I think we all do this, right? Create a villain in our heads.
Or a victim.
Or a victim, right?
Yeah.
I create the story that I'm the victim and the other person's the villain and they're out to get me. And really that's probably not where the conversation is at all. That's not what the person's thinking at all, right? That person respects me and loves me enough that wants to have this conversation, but in my head I feel like I'm being judged or, there's some ulterior motive that they're bringing this up for. So I create a villain out of them, and I'm the victim. Like, oh, poor me. They don't see my side. They don't understand this. They don't understand that. But really, it's just the story I'm creating in my head.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people do that. I feel like it's very, very common, and that's like a really huge thing in this book was that I noticed that things that I thought were just me that was doing it was just way more common. Obviously, if they're putting it in a book for everyone to read, it can't be just me that's doing it. It's got to be more common than that. And creating a story is definitely something that I've seen other people do and myself a lot. Whereas if somebody's having a really bad day in the morning and they come in and you don't know if they've had a bad morning, and they just come in all frustrated and angry, and they kind of take it out on you. It kind of feeds into that conversation, even if you guys are just talking about, hey, what do you want to eat for lunch? Mm-hmm. And they get all pissed and like, I don't want Panda Express. Are you kidding me? I'm on a diet. And like run out of the room. And then you're like, what the heck just happened? This person's crazy. But you never even thought to stop and ask them, like, hey, what's going on in your personal life? Like, what happened this morning?
What about winning the conversation, Nora?
Oh, gosh. Well, when somebody's trying to win a conversation, I think that's like the worst possible thing you can do. And I feel myself doing this all the time when a crucial conversation pops up, where I just have all these cards in my back pocket and I'm just like prepared and ready to go. And the other person doesn't know about this at all. And they come in the conversation thinking it's going to go well or whatever they think. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to win. And I'm like, all right, well, you did this on May 22nd, 1994, and blah, blah. And I'll like have all the dates and everything, all the facts laid out. And then you're just, at the end, you're just trying to win the conversation. So the other person feels like you're basically overpowering them with all these pocketed responses, and they tend to shy away, and they're like, okay, they're winning the conversation. I don't want to put my input in anymore. And you don't really have a good conversation, and you don't have a good ending to it either.
Are you describing me?
we all do it.
Yeah, I mean, I took debate in college, right? So I literally had cards, and that's how I fought with facts, right? And I think Dan described it once when we first started dating. He's like, I can't have a fight with you. He's like, you win. He's like, you run circles around me. And I was devastated, right? When I finally heard that, like, God, that's how it feels to talk to me. So winning is definitely not the most important thing. It's really, I think, goes back to the mutual purpose and the common goal of the relationship. What do I want out of this? And it can't just be for me. It has to be what do I want for us. So, yeah, for
We just
sure.
gotta stop winning the conversations. Be the losers every once in a while.
That's right.
So in crucial conversations, safety is an important piece in every important discussion. Can you elaborate on this concept?
Yeah, I actually like the safety concept a lot. If you don't feel safe in a conversation, then you're not gonna engage fully in the conversation. You're not going to tell the person how you really feel. You're not going to tell them the pros and cons of the relationship. You're not going to get into the deep parts where you need to go in the conversation. You're just going to feel very unsafe. You're going to feel timid. You're going to shy away from the person. And you're just going to most likely agree with whatever they say. Or at least agree with whatever they want, which isn't a good thing. It's not going to bring the conversation to a head. It's not going to bring it to a good place. And you guys aren't going to move on or move further with the conversation or with your relationship.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
What was your biggest takeaway from this exercise?
Oh, yeah. Start with me first, right?
Yeah.
Scott always says that, what's my part in it, right? And I really like that when he started introducing that concept to me. I was like, oh, that's great. But reading this book, I think almost every page I could be like, what's my part in it? How could I do that in my daily conversations, in my business conversations, in my personal relationships? What's my part in it? Or, I can only change me. I can't change you. I can't change you. I can't change anybody. I can change myself and model examples of how I want my relationships to go with people. So respect them by respecting myself to lead it to a healthy spot. So
Yeah, I completely agree. It all starts with me, myself, and I. You have to, though, because I feel like I've tried to maybe not change people, but kind of like push them in the direction that I think they should go. I'm like, hey, why don't you do this? And you can do this, this, and this to get there. And if they don't want to do it, or if they're not motivated to do it, they're not going to. It's simple as that. They're not. So you kind of have to start with yourself and, okay, well, maybe I should be the example. If I make these steps and say I achieved my goals and my dreams and all this stuff and I make it to the top, then that'll inspire or motivate somebody else to do the same.
All right, ladies. Well, thank you for coming here today and answering my questions. If people are interested in this book, Crucial Conversations, we'll leave a link in the description below, and you can purchase it through there. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Say it again. Should we again? So I'm safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just gonna basically, oh my god, girl.
there's no way I could have given a straight face for that one. So let me just explain
Anyways.
to the camera.
You can't say your name,
Nora.
stupid. Oh. You get a ticket on the way to work.
That's a low blow.
I hate you like that.
I've got my fair share. I could laugh. I get lots of tickets. Oh my god. She didn't want that Panda Express because of that.
I don't like Chinese food anyways.